Those who claim that Ataturk was a religious person show the sermon of Balıkesir Zagnos Pasha Mosque on February 7, 1923 as evidence. O people! Allah is one, His glory is great. May Allah's peace, love and goodness be upon you. Our Prophet, our Master, was appointed by God Almighty to convey religious truths to people and became a messenger. Its basic order is the clear and definite provisions in the Great Quran, which we all know, continues as follows. It is not clear whether this is a Friday or Eid prayer sermon, and moreover, there is no photograph of Mustafa Kemal on the pulpit. Let's accept that this and the montaged photograph are real. Ataturk was already a religious person only in his childhood and youth because he was born into a Muslim family. From his words, attitudes and actions, his instructions to establish the Directorate of Religious Affairs in 1924, etc., it is understood that in his youth, he was an ordinary Muslim who had the Sunni faith and was unaware of the system. When the Quran started to be translated a few years after the establishment of the Directorate of Religious Affairs, he became aware of the Arabic tales and like every other awakened deist, Ataturk also converted to deism and if you notice, he uttered negative words about Islam mostly after this process. As I said before, I provided evidence that the religious rituals practiced by Sunni Muslims and those practiced by Jews are the same. Because the religion that the Persian Ottomans lived and kept alive was actually the religion of the Hebrew Jews. Note the Israel, Zion, Star of David on Barbaros Pasha's flag in the image. I have said before that the Jews do not use their own race as slaves. Over time, they enslave the nations they invaded and install capitalism there. To understand capitalism, we need to go back to the Sumerians. The concept of the first slave emerged in those times. The essence of capitalism is to make the king, queen at the head of the system and the officials she appoints rich. In this system, the people who are seen as the lowest class are constantly poor. Those at the top of the system are rich and also powerful. Those who step outside this circle have no chance of survival. Picture this in your mind and you will see what I mean. Sharia, i.e., Jewish religion uses paid religious and political figures to keep the ordinary people of the world in slavery and to keep them in the circle of the capitalist evil trio at the head of the system. If they cannot keep the people within the circle with these, they will use the nuclear, biological, genetic and climate weapons that they have had since time immemorial. Ordinary people also think that the effects of these weapons are the wrath of God and are afraid. Thus, they cannot get out of the circle. Their brains are suppressed, and cowardly and obedient generations are raised. Just like the fleas in the glass ceiling syndrome, the elephant in the learned helplessness syndrome, and the frogs in the boiled frog syndrome, over time they stop struggling and choose to surrender to the system. The name of this applied to the people is Islam. Islam means submission. Branches of science such as medicine, physics, chemistry, biology etc. also belong to them. These weapons, developed in laboratories behind the scenes, are financed by the rich at the top of the system pyramid. Every person or society that rebels against the system is harvested with these weapons. Once you've learned the system, I can get back to the topic. The poor crowd who think that the Ottomans were Muslim Turks living in accordance with the Quran should think about why the Ottomans did not abolish slavery for 6 centuries. When the Ottoman Empire started to become close with the Arabs and Persians, it gradually moved towards its inevitable end and eventually collapsed, like all other states that collapsed due to Arabization. The Ottoman Empire did not abolish slavery because it too worked within the system. The Sultan and his family were rich but the common people were always poor, just like other one-man states ruled by kings and sultans. Ataturk must have thought the same way because he started to research the ancestors of the Turks and saw that the real Turks, Yoruks, had a much older lineage. Hey lords and gentlemen, go to the Taurus Mountains and take a look. Wherever you see a black Yorick tent, if its smoke is rising, no power in the world can ever defeat us. Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. The same shaman, who lived freely in touch with nature, rebelled against this capitalist system by discovering that the Turks, like the Native Americans and Aborigines, also lived freely, nomadically, and everything that happened after these dates. Close to his death, he became the target of religious and political figures who were servants of the system by closing down Jewish Masonic lodges, and he was slowly killed with a type of poison by Jewish doctors who were also financed by the system. As I said, anyone who tries to get out of the circle will be killed. Yes, friends, this is the completed version of the puzzle they showed us. It is not possible to understand Atatürk by proceeding through the missing pieces. The nationalist group also claims that Atatürk was also an idealist by proceeding through these missing pieces and show the wolf emblems used in his time and the pictures taken with wolves as evidence. However, all of these pictures are montages. Fakes. Source, tayet.org. This is the funniest lie about Atatürk, my friends. Idealism. It is a synthesis of Turkish, Jewish, Islam supported by Jews. It is an ideology that works to re-Arabize, Judaize the country by destroying Atatürk's pure, essential Turkishness nationalism principle. I have explained in detail in my other videos that Muslim Turks worship and Jewish worship are exactly the same. The ones who caused this are the Nurkas, Democrats and idealists. Turks who are true Atatürk nationalists cannot have a religion. According to the Atatürkist view, the Turkish nation is defined in the 1924 constitution. Race and religion are rejected in this definition. This definition states that, the people of Turkey are called Turks by citizenship, regardless of their religion and race. Source Wiki. The phrase, "How happy is the one who calls himself a Turk," is not actually a forced fascist discourse, but on the contrary, it is a unifying element. If all people living within the borders of Turkey want to live completely independently, first of all, they should integrate themselves as individuals of this country, act together as Turkish citizens against internal and external threats and defend the country. This is what Atatürk meant by Turkish nationalism. In short, it tells us that, everyone living within these borders are brothers regardless of religion, language or race, and they must act together in order to live completely independently. By the way, this picture where they claim he is making the grey wolf sign is also a montage fake. Just by looking at the fakes and forgeries in this video, you can understand who are really enemies of Atatürk. You may or may not like Atatürk, that is your choice, but what he does is not an easy task. Wanting independence against the exploitation belief system that surrounds the world like a spider web and being able to spread this fire to the whole world is truly a great and admirable situation. The system was interrupted for a while because of Atatürk and they were forced to sign a 100-year ceasefire agreement, but of course they did not stop. They started to attack Atatürk's principles and shake the foundations of the country in the 1940s. While they were saying there was no justice, no democracy, no idealism, they were dividing the country a lot in the 1960s. The Trojan horse Nurkas, or Illuminati, who want to conquer the castle from within, are working together with Democrat politicians and are infiltrating the state. It is thanks to them that the evil triangle, imperialism and capitalism exploitation system has been established in Turkey. These are not slanders. Open and read Sadi Nursi's Emirdag Lahikas. Hear his ambitions from his own words. I have given some of them in my other videos. By the 1980s, they were succeeding in becoming a trend not only in Turkey but all over the world. They were trying to destroy the nation-states that they could not destroy with civil wars, conflicts and discrimination, this time with terror. And of course they cannot do this either. Because Atatürk establishes such a strong, disciplined army and state that it is not a system that will collapse easily unless traitors accumulate within. The Arab Spring in the 2000s is perceived as Arab passion in our country and we are taking millions of Arabs into our midst and reaching the nirvana of Arabization. Just like the previous Turkish states that were Arabized and collapsed, we are preparing our own end. They tried to return my beautiful country to its factory settings with coups every 20 years. On July 15, 2016, they staged a coup and returned to the one-man regime, by giving it more powers than its predecessors. Coups were seen as an anti-democratic practice. Coup supporters were declared terrorists and the FIDO members were supposedly expelled from the army. Did this really happen? Or was it the other way around? Time will tell. The fact that some FIDO politicians have not been arrested and some still continue to serve forces is to question the real purpose of this coup. Don't get me wrong, I am not in favor of a coup, nor am I an idealist, racist, fascist or communist, etc. I am just an individual who embraces Atatürk's fully independent Turkey ideology. I wonder how Atatürk's ideology of a fully independent Turkey will come to life when sovereignty is taken from the people and given to a single man. You are not aware that you have turned hope into a dream, but you will understand this very soon. I cannot accept that Arabs and Arab lovers, who have been dragging my country down with their reactionism and bigotry, who cannot adapt to any society they enter, will invade my country and use it as fodder for the colonialist Jewish states. That's why I say yes, coups are necessary for these. Because today's Turkey has nothing to do with Atatürk's independent Turkey. We have come to the end of our 100 partial years of freedom. The period ends in 2023. That's why our freedoms are being suppressed and usurped at full speed. The system has to keep us in the circle until 2023. Until this date they will not make any attempt to anger the people, but afterwards they can use the weapons they have and/or they can solve this through political means. In any case, a collapse will be inevitable in 2023 and/or later. Just like the previous Arabized and collapsed Turkish states. Friends, please wake up and start seeing the bigger picture. Was Atatürk religious or not? What do we care? Even the Quran says, your religion is for you, my religion is for me. Why do we care so much whether he was religious or not? The man created a new secular country and left us free to believe or not. What else are you after? Maybe you may have been happy to serve and worship the Jewish elite as God for centuries, but I am not. You can continue your service, but do not interfere with my love of complete independence. You cannot enjoy any belief when you are not independent. The process of separation has begun. Now that a polarization has been created, choose your side by 2023, friends. Either we will side with this tyrannical system that usurps freedoms, and in the golden age we will once again make them our bosses and continue to be exploited as slaves, or we will side with the people for freedom and full independence and leave a more livable world for our generation. Just like the Aborigines, original people, Indians and ancient Turks, may be primitive but free. Additional information. All 6 arrows represent a strong Turkey. If the people accept themselves as a member of the Turkish nation and in this context choose secularity and end religious conflicts, the country will become stronger and develop. New revolutions will be made and the state will become even stronger. If the state becomes stronger, the republic, i.e. the people, will live in security and prosperity, but when one of them is harmed, this structure will start to collapse in a chain reaction. Here, the insidious snakes who wanted to harm this structure started to destroy these principles right after Atatürk's death. First, they separated the people as Turks and Ottomans. While this separation continues, it is of course not possible to be a true Atatürk nationalist. Then they tried to attack secularism and impose the Jewish Arab religion on our people. They even used paid clergy for a while. When the religion fed by capitalism started to prevail, we suddenly became consumers and started to sell everything we had. We stopped the revolution in production. We went back to the one-man regime and separated and weakened our state. Now there is one last step left. To destroy the republic. Be sure that they will achieve this in the very near future. Our republic is wounded, my friends. Either we will recreate the consciousness of the national forces and heal this wound, or we will be erased from this stage of history. Now, whether you take this video seriously or not is your choice, but know this well that these colonialist tyrants who are brokers of religion are afraid of people who act together. When they realize that they cannot manage you as they wish, they will destroy you with weapons of mass destruction. Look at the Jewish, Arab people who cannot unite and are divided into sects and are harvested every 10 to 20 years. Take a lesson. These people are easy prey for colonial bosses. However, Turkey is not a country that can be destroyed overnight due to its strategic location. They are advancing slowly and surely. They are conquering the castle from within. You may mock what I am saying by calling it a conspiracy. You have experienced everything that you used to mock by calling it a conspiracy. You will experience this too. They know very well that you cannot prevent this destruction with fake religiousness and fake nationalism, and they are waiting for the slightest opportunity to arise. When this opportunity arises, rest assured that they will light the fuse of the dynamite.